participants. Please start. Hello, Kamini ma'am. Please go to the PPT.
Yes, yes, I'm going to. So, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please
Okay,
start.
so very good morning to everyone. And I thank the organizers of this summer school for providing me opportunity to share our experience on working on agroforestry systems, and also to share how the agroforestry can be used as a climate resilient farming strategy. So I'll be talking about all this, and I'll be sharing one very important case studies that the research that we have carried out, and that can show you that how agroforestry can act as a climate resilient systems, and when we are facing this climate change currently. So in current scenario, agroforestry is very important. So we all know that currently we are facing climate crisis. So the temperature is increasing because of the greenhouse gases emissions that's are rise that climate these greenhouse gases emissions that are rising currently. So we are facing abrupt climate, different flood situations, glaciers are melting, and drought conditions, and some forest fires we are observing currently because of this climate change. And if you see the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere, so it's rising very high rate, and this is a killing curve where this carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is being recorded every day. And if you see this is the value for 27.25 ppm. This is the value that we had today morning. So today this much carbon dioxide level is there, and if you see from the pre-industrial era, it's rising very high, and we have to reduce the carbon emission, as well as we have to create this sink that can store carbon dioxide so that we can mitigate the climate change and reduce the impact of climate change on our earth or our ecosystem, because the climate change is hampering human survival. It's impacting the what we call a food production system. So ultimately the human race is facing a survival challenges. And moreover, because of this climate change, if you see there is a continuous increase in the climate. And IPCC also recently has said that we have to reduce this rise in the temperature, and we have to keep it low, less than 1.5 degrees Celsius rise right from the pre-industrial era. So we have to keep the temperature rise under check. So so what is the solution here? So agroforestry is a viable solution here, and moreover, we are also facing so many impact of these climate change on agriculture because of extreme weather conditions, change in the rainfall pattern, and other extreme weather condition like drought and floods. We are facing loss of soil organic carbon. There is increase in the loss of soil nutrients from the soil, and this rise in temperature is hampering the growth of the crop, their yield, as well as their quality, because that is hampering the photosynthesis process, and it's ultimately leading to the overall reduction in the crop yield as well as quality. And especially when we have smallholder farmers in India and in the developing countries. So these are the main producer of the foods, because they contribute to the 29 of the global crop production, and they produce 30% of the world food, and they are farming on the 24% of the available agriculture land worldwide. So mostly these kind of farmers, they are being impacted much more because of this climate change. So we need a sustainable land use strategy that can reduce the impact of these climate change on our farming system, and moreover provide diverse products and diversified income resources to the farmer, so that we can reduce the impact of climate change on our agriculture, and we can produce sustainably food, and also so that we can uh, make our agro ecosystem more resilient to the climate change. So, and moreover, it's very important to see that agriculture sector is also a very important emitter of the greenhouse gases, including the livestock also. So agriculture sector has been reported to emit 6 billion metric ton of greenhouse gases into the environment per year. So this is the global data. So agriculture sector is also contributing towards the climate change, but we have to reduce this emission, and so that we can reduce the contribution of agriculture to climate change. So because of all this scenario, because of the rising climate crisis, so we have a various challenges to deal with. So the first one is the climate change mitigation adaptation. Because of this climate change, we need to have a strategies that can mitigate it, and we need to adapt to the climate changing climate scenario, so that we are not hampering any food production. We are able to produce all the resources, and we have to ensure food security, and we also need to ensure biodiversity conservation. And moreover, because of this climate change, we are facing degradation of the lands because of loss of carbon from the soils, and moreover because of soil and water soil erosion, and because of all this, the ecosystem is turning into a degraded land. So that's very important to restore them. And moreover, we also have a lot of wasteland and degraded land with us, so that also need to be restored. And also we need to have a focus on achieving the sustainable development goal. So that's also important. So in this scenario, every country, especially with regard to their emission commitments, they have some commitments, so that they can reduce this climate change. So they have some what we call their commitments. Like India, it's commitment of the India that it should create additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion ton equivalent through additional forest and tree cover. So to become a carbon neutral country, because every countries have got some goals to reduce this impact of climate change. So India is also committed. So how can we meet out this what we have committed? So we only have option like agroforestry, the land use system. So to mitigate climate change and to meet out the goal of carbon neutrality, and their commitments to reduce carbon emission and to create more of things. So, and to ensure fodder security, food security, and nutritional security, and to mitigate as well as to adapt to the climate change. The agroforestry system, they are very important, and we all know that there is a lot of benefits of agroforestry system. First of all, it's like a important system that ensures multiple products. We can have fuel wood, firewood, timber, and other crops that we are growing along with the tree crops. So we have multiple products. So that's one of the important benefit of this agroforestry system. And other is soil and water conservation, then biodiversity conservation, then restoration of degraded land, and moreover trees, and as well as the crops which we are growing under this agroforestry system. They have a capacity to store carbon dioxide from the atmosphere in their biomass, as well as in the soil carbon pool. So it's an important strategy to capture the atmospheric carbon dioxide and to store it in its biomass. So it's very important benefit of the agroforestry. Then microclimate modification, because of the trees present in the agroforestry system, there is always a reduction in the temperature, and the cooling effect happens. So because of the tree canopy, so compared to the land where we don't have such land use, so including trees, so it's uh, important benefit of agroforestry. Because of microclimate modification, it improves the climate for growing the crops, and it increases the yield as well as the quality of the crop which we are growing with the agroforestry. And then restoration of degraded land, because agroforestry, it improves nutrient cycling, conserves soil and water, and it provides a lot of other benefits, and the restoration efficiency of the agroforestry systems are more compared to the other land use systems. So it helps in restoration of degraded land. So by this way, it helps us to mitigate as well as to adapt to the climate change scenario. So it's very important land use. Then we already know that what are the attributes of the resilient farming practices, and the resilient farming practice should conserve soil, increase the soil fertility, and ensure good what we call sustainable production, and it should provide the diversified products and diversified incomes to the farmer, so that they can ensure their livelihood security, food security, and it should increase the resilience of the system to the adverse effect of biotic stresses, and it should be suited for the local people, and it should be you know it should not be releasing more of the carbon, so the carbon footprint should be very low, so that land use system is known as a resilient farming practices. But the biggest challenge when we have to adopt agroforestry system or establish agroforestry system is that how tree and crops can be integrated, because it's not like that just growing trees and crops will help you out, but we have to design agroforestry system in a best way so that it's sustainable, it's not impacting the yield and the quality of the two different components, the perennial and as well as the annual component. So it's a biggest challenge. So for that, we need to have a knowledge regarding the above and below ground interactions. That's very important to establish a successful agroforestry systems, and it's a best way to manage a viable agroforestry system. So beforehand, we should know what are the above and below ground interaction that will happen in this system. And here comes the role of research, because we need to find out the best tree and crop combination that can be grown on a particular land, so that we can have a optimize resource use and can have a sustainable production without any negative impact. So it's very, very important. And so first of all, we'll talk about the above and below ground interaction. So whenever we are growing tree and crops, there's obviously going to have a negative as well as positive interactions, and the above ground interaction, they are more visible, and mostly that is for light. And so the above ground interaction is going to be for light, and it's going to impact the quality as well as quantity of production of crops. So if you have a tree that is having a big ground, so if you're growing that kind of a tree, so you should be growing the crops which can tolerate the shade, and depending upon the tree type of the tree canopy or the architecture of the tree and the density and the rotation of tree, you should be selecting a crop which you can grow with the your trees. So especially if your system in early stage of development, you can grow light demander crops, and if it's later stages, you can go for the management tree canopy, or you can grow shade tolerant crops. And if your trees they are dense, then you can go for the shade tolerant crops, and if it's density is very low, then you can grow these other light demanding crop. And based on the rotation, like early rotation of fast growing trees, you can grow light demanding species. So that's important. So based upon the type of your trees that is being grown and the tree density and the rotation, we have to select the crops as well as management practices. That is very, very important. So we should know that what kind of a crops they are shade tolerant, light demander, that can be included with these trees. And beforehand, we should know the crown architecture of tree, so that if there is a shade problem, so that we can prune it, we can manage the canopy, so that we can have optimized yield out of our system. And obviously there is going to be another important interaction, that is allelopathy. It can be positive as well as negative, and sometimes crop will impact the tree growth and tree will impact the crop growth as well. So beforehand, we can study the impact with the laboratory studies that can be carried out, so that we can found that which tree can be grown with which crop. And so it's very, very important. Otherwise, if such if you don't have a knowledge on these aspects, then even if you are planning a very good agroforestry system, your system is going to be failure because of this interaction. So we must know. And there are a few examples where the species like Terminalia species and even this Sependus species, they have been reported to have a negative impact on wheat and many other food crops. So we should know that what tree can be planted with which crop, and what crops can be integrated with tree. So this is important. And so there are many other species like Juglans rhizia, Populus tumula, that shows negative allelopathic impact on the species like anything prevalent. So we should know this thing. So it's very important for designing agroforestry system or agroforestry based farming system. Then the management of above ground interaction. So most of the above ground interaction is for light, so that can be managed very well. So if competition is for light, we can select the right tree species. So based on the current architecture, so species that will not impact the growth of the below ground crop, especially if it's having light ground, that can be selected, and we can select right density of tree. Suppose if a tree is having a large crown, so we can keep a lesser number of tree per hectare, so that their impact on the light interception the crop is very, very less, and we can manage the canopy by pruning. So it's important to go for this kind of a management practices. And for testing allelopathy, you can go for the early testing, or you can integrate those crops which are compatible with having no allelopathic impact, or positive, or having positive allelopathic interaction. So for this, we need to have a already we should know the tree architecture, above ground architecture and growth rate. So it's important. So these aspects should be known. Then yes, we need to standardize optimum stand density. Suppose we have to develop agroforestry based farming system, so we need to test beforehand that what spacing is optimum for growing crops along with this tree species. So it's important, and moreover, it's also important to standardize optimum pruning intensity if we are going for pruning management, because over pruning will also harm your crop yield, and under pruning will also harm. So we have to standardize based on the trees, and based on the tree canopy architecture. So this kind of experiment needs to be taken up for the successful management of agroforestry systems. And so integration of trees and crops is very, very important, because it will enhance tree productivity as well, and it will also improve the quantity as well as quality of the crop, because it will reduce the negative impact of harsh climate on the crop. So it's a win-win, and you will get high economic returns, because a land where you were growing only crops, you will be having returns out of crops. But if you are growing trees, you will get multiple products, and you can sell them, and you can have multiple other products from the trees, like timber, fuel, wood, medicinal products, etc. So it's very important to have a system having diversified products and diversified what we call it, diversified income. And you will have an income through from this system. You can have income throughout the year, because different products they'll be harvesting at the different stages of the year. So throughout the year, around the year, income can be ensured because of this agroforestry system. And coming to the above ground interaction, so there are facilitation also, because the trees present on the land, they will improve the microclimate because of providing the shade to the crop, reducing the harsh light intensity, and protecting the crop from the negative impact of wind and other climate crisis. So this will reduce the harsh impact of a climate on agriculture crop, and will improve their quality as well as quantity. Especially when we talk about the grass species, So if we are growing grass species under silvipastoral system, so if we are growing them under the tropical condition and semi-arid arid condition, you will see that those grasses which are growing under sun, they will have more of fiber content, and they are the less palatable to the animals, and moreover their crude protein content is, or nutrition quality is going to be less compared to the grass that you are growing along with trees under silvipastoral system, because under silvipastoral system there is going to be more of shade, and what will happen, it will reduce the structural carbohydrate formation in the grasses, and will reduce the fiber fractions, and it will also improve the crude protein content, and there is going to be increase in the yield as well as the quality of the grasses. So like that, it's very important aspect of agroforestry, that it helps in improving the quality as well as the quantity production by providing shade and improving the microclimate for the crop. And competitive exclusion because of the trees and because of other crops that we are growing. So the third species like weeds, they'll be less under this system because of competition for resources. So this also happens under agroforestry. And then coming to the below ground interactions, which are very important. So these interactions, they are not visible, they are underground interaction. So mostly the interaction is for water and nutrients. These are the very, because above ground interaction we can see easily, but underground competition, it's very difficult to judge. So underground competition is going to be for the water and nutrients, and there are also positive interaction like facilitation. So more nutrient availability is going to be there if you are integrating trees. It's going to be beneficial. Then microbial activity will increase, soil moisture will increase because of the trees, because they will store and they will capture more of water in their roots, and because of the litter fall and more of the organic matter, moisture retention capacity of soil will increase. So that's going to uh, improve the crop yield. So it's very important. So especially when there is a competition for water and nutrients, you are going to see that poor establishment of trees or crops under their reduced growth. So competition for nutrient is more fierce in the surface layer than water in the upper layer, and there is more severe competition than light. So this is more severe competition than light, and most of the surface layer you are going to have a more of severe competition for nutrients. So, and moreover, not much focus has been given on these aspects when establishing the agroforestry system. So it's very important to judge the competition for water and nutrients. And for that we need to have, like, for everground interactions to have a positive interaction, we need to have a information of the above ground architecture of the trees. So for this below ground interaction, because we are planting trees and crops having different below ground architecture, so we need to have beforehand knowledge of the below ground architecture of trees, as trees as well as crops. So mostly crops, they have a roots in their shallow roots, but trees, there are few trees that can also have a shallow root system. They can have a orientation of roots on the upper layers, horizontal forming roots. Different type of root architectures are there, and so based on those we have to plan the agroforestry system, their establishment. So it's very important to have knowledge of the underground architecture of the trees. So because they are the plants and trees with high fine root length densities on the upper layer of soils, if you are planting such trees with the crops, you are going to face more of severe competition, and this will hamper the crop production. Or you should know how much these tree roots can extend towards your different direction, so that you can know that how far you have to plant your crop from the tree base, because that is important, because some trees they are having shallow rooted root system, and some of will have deep. If trees are deep rooted and their roots are not extended very far, so they can be planted at very close spacing with the trees. But if the trees is extending roots to the large area, and if the tree is having shallow roots and more of fine root density on the upper layer, then you need to plant on the very far. You need to keep a more space between the tree and the crops, and you need to go for wider spacing between the two tree rows. So that's important. So you can know only all these things beforehand if you know the root architecture of trees. So it's very important. Once you know the tree architecture, you can manipulate the root architecture of the trees, or uh, you can plan you can plan crop and trees spatial arrangement in a way so that there is a minimization of these all kind of a competition. So we need to know this information. So it's very important. And so management of below ground interaction. So crops, there is, if the crop is having more of competition with the trees, you can it can lead to delaying. So you can go for the delaying of the establishment of the trees. It will delay the establishment of trees because crop will compete. Because sometimes the trees, some trees are very slow growing and the early stage of establishment, or if you are growing them with the crops, so the crops are more fierce and they will grow very fast and they will compete with the trees, so ultimately hampering the growth of trees. And trees also can impact the growth of crops as well, as because of all this competition. And because of that, we should know the tree root architecture beforehand. And if we know that trees having dense roots, and most of the fine roots they are on the upper surface, and most if the roots are growing horizontally to a longer distance, then we can keep the density in a way so that there is a no negative impact on the crops. So we can keep more of tree to tree distance and row to row distance to avoid such kind of competition. And if you know the root architecture beforehand, if you know that the trees having shallow roots, so you can manipulate the roots by root wrenching or root pruning. So but the thing is that you should know it, because if you don't know, you cannot judge this kind of competitions. Is very important. So if you know that trees having shallow root, you can cut the roots, you can go for the root pruning. And moreover, you can keep more of distance between the tree to tree and row to row. And so this is very important. So fine root density is also important because they are the feeder root. So if it is more in upper layer, so it's important to keep more distance between the trees and crops. So these things. And the below ground interaction is also a facilitation. So because of the trees, there is going to be more of litter fall, and litter fall is going to provide more of organic matter, that will increase water infiltration rate. And because of the trees and because of their roots, so they will capture more of the moisture. They will allow the moisture retention in the soil, so that will create a good moisture level in the soil and improve the crop yield. And because of tree root decomposition and leaf litter decomposition, because of having the fine root, high turnover rate of the fine roots, there is increase in the soil fertility. And because of the agroforestry, it's like a closed nutrient cycling system, so it will improve nutrient cycling, and ultimately your land uh, productivity will increase, your crop productivity will increase, and your crop quality will also increase. So it's a both benefit, and as well as sometimes negative impacts also happen, but we can manipulate all this so that we can have a agroforestry system which is resource optimizing, and which is producing high quality products from it. And moreover, if we are growing trees, there is going to be less of input like fertilizer, irrigation. So less of input cost is going to be reduced. So, and moreover, you are going to have high economic returns because of the multiple products. So your benefit cost ratio is very, very high. And moreover, in India, we know that we have a different kind of agroforestry system like silviculture, silvipastoral, agri-silvipastoral, agri-silvi-horticulture, and hortipastoral system. So these are the main agroforestry system that we have in India. And we know that most of the fuel wood and wood plywood and raw material supply is going to be from, and even the fodder is made from the agroforestry. So it's an important component, and we are already what we call, we are already um, going for a farming system which include trees. So agroforestry is very much prevalent right from the beginning in India. And we have a different agroforestry practices in India, like boundary plantation, home gardens, industry plantation, scatter trees, shelter belt, and so many things. So we already follow these practices, and we have a different agroforestry system across the different agroclimatic zones in India. Uh, so so agroforestry. So this was all about how we can establish agroforestry system which is viable in terms of providing more of your production, and also making it more climate resilient. So we should follow all these things, like focusing on the studying the above ground and below ground interaction to to establish a viable agroforestry system. And moreover, through this agroforestry system, we can have diversified agriculture production. We can produce food, mm, other fodder, fiber, dye, resin, and so many multiple products, timber like that, fuel, wood, fodder, everything we can produce out of this agroforestry. And we can have a agroforestry system that can provide you different products at different time of the year. So based on that different tree species, fruit species that we are integrating under agroforest system, so we can design a system that can provide you products around the year, so that can uh, sustain you around the year income. And so this is very, very important. So agroforestry in that way is very, very important to diversify agriculture production as well as agriculture income. And moreover, coming to the climate mitigation and adaptation aspects of the agroforestry system, they can sequester carbon dioxide. So they have a different pool of carbon dioxide. This so biomass carbon pool. So in above ground, below ground, and litter biomass, micro biomass, these are the pools of biomass carbon in agroforestry system. So agroforestry system, tree are the additional component, and trees store this carbon in their biomass, especially in bowls. So that is long-term storage, and the carbon loss which will happen through this system is very, very less. And moreover, because of the trees, there is enhanced soil carbon sequestration as well. So these are a win-win these are the win-win land use system that can sequester huge amount of carbon dioxide. So when we see the carbon dioxide storage potential of different systems like agri-silviculture, it's a huge capacity. They have huge capacity to store carbon under different, depending upon the different situation, the density of the trees, the age of the trees, and the climatic condition. They can store huge amount of carbon. Right from in literature, it's like 8.6 to 40 megagram per hectare storage that can happen under this system. Then horticulture based system, they have also got the huge capacity to store carbon dioxide in their biomass and soil. And like that, the pasture based agroforestry system, they have got the huge carbon storage capacity. And globally, the agroforestry system has been reported to store around 300 megagram of carbon per hectare to 1 meter depth. So the thing is that what I would like to convey here is that the agroforestry system, they have huge potential to capture the carbon dioxide in their biomass and soil carbon pool. So they have got a huge capacity to mitigate the climate change. So we can suppose a land use system where we don't have any trees, and the other system where we have a tree. So obviously we are going to have a more of carbon storage in them, and so that's very important. So moreover, soil water conservation is because of the root system dynamics, because tree roots, they are deeper, they will store the moisture, they won't allow the water to flow out, excess water, so they will store water, and so they're going to they act as a safety net, and they will be conserving the soil as well. So more of the through the organic matter decomposition and through littered fall, they are providing a physical barrier for the soil erosion, because they improve the soil structures and stability, so it will reduce the soil and water erosion. And so many studies are there which have found that there is a 50% reduction in the soil erosion rate compared to the monoculture. And so it's very very important benefit of agroforestry system. Then microclimate modification, because of the crown architecture, it will increase the humidity, and it will provide shading to the crops, and moreover it will reduce the wind speed, and it will reduce the heat stress, and like that it will reduce the temperature, because of under tree canopy there's going to be less temperature than the and then the area where we don't have trees. So it's a microclimate modification impact. That's a major benefit of agroforestry, and it will improve your crop and yield as well as quality, so it's important. So biodiversity conservation, because of the trees, they will provide you nesting sites, and it will act as a connecting bridges between the fragmented habitats and multiple food resources to the wildlife, and round the year food for wildlife. So it's very important for biodiversity conservation. So in one study, it was found that where the honey locust tree was grown, it favored many wildlife species, bears, squirrels, and so many opossums and raccoons, compared to the system where they didn't had any trees, or they were just growing the crop. So it's very important component. And also the very many macro and microflora under the soil, they are also dependent upon the trees. So if we're growing an agroforestry system, these macro and microflora is going to be flourish, and that will improve the soil fertility as well as increase the biodiversity. So moreover, nutrient cycling and fertility improvement. We already know that trees through litter fall, root decomposition, nitrogen fixing, they will improve your soil, and they will reduce leaching of the nutrients from the soil. So by this way, they will improve soil fertility, maintain the nutrient cycling, because of the closed type of nutrient cycling that we have in the agroforestry system. So it's also one of the important benefit. Now I will give an example, a very very important example, or the case studies that we have carried out here. So to show you that how this agroforestry can turn a degraded land or wasteland into a best land or a highly productive land. So this is the study that we have carried out here in the degraded landscape of the Bundelkhand. So converting degraded landscape into climate resilient landscape. So you can see the photograph where you can see the soil, which is very gravelly, and in Bundelkhand, the organic carbon percentage of the soil is very, very low, and its water holding capacity is very, very low. So this is an experimental site. So we had a agroforestry system, silvipastoral system established on this land. So there is a, you can see the red soil having 0.3 to 0.5 organic matter. It's this much of organic matter, and it's very shallow soil because there is so many parent rock over there, and poor productivity, very 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 low water holding capacity. And so this was the land and experimental land that we took in 2010. So we planted trees, the important fodder trees like Ficus infectoria, Acacia nilotica, and Morasalva over here. And the shrubs Lucinia leucocephala was also planted on this land. And grasses like Megathrysus maximum, Chrysopocon, and the legume Stylosynthis was planted on different spacing. And so this was planted, and we can see these results. So these were the steps that were followed to establish this system. We did the bush clearing, land preparation, digging, then planting, then production of this. And now we are utilizing this for cut carry. We are also utilizing this land for the grazing as well. We'll see that from how this degraded land converted into a beautiful landscape. So now this is the initial stage of establishing this landscape. So you can see this was a totally degraded land, devoid of any trees or grasses. There was a bushes and very poor grass growth over there, and it was a gravelly land. So we established the silvopasture. So now it is utilized for the various purpose. So what happened because of these trees and growing trees and grasses? So initially there was nothing which is growing through this system. Then when we did this, what happened that the grass production or the productivity on the land increased. Because of initial stage there was nothing growing on this land, so now we can produce like 22 to 33 ton of fodder from grasses every year, and from legume we can produce like 4 to 5 ton of the fodder. And different tree species is also providing fodder like 5 to 2 to 5 ton of fodder per hectare per year where we can get out of this land. So the land which was not providing anything initially, that is sustaining the fodder production around the year. So grasses and legume, they are providing us fodder right from the July to December month. So 6 months we are taking fodder from the pasture, underground pasture, and the rest of the period, like lean period, winter and summer, we are taking fodder, green fodder from the trees. So by this way, we are ensuring round the year fodder production, and moreover, the fodder quality is very high under this system, because we are taking for this fodder from the trees as well, and trees having high crude protein content. So it's having high crude protein content like more than 14%. So that's sustaining the livestock productivity, and it's able to maintain the livestock like 4 to 5 ACU livestock per hectare uh, under these conditions. And moreover, what we have seen that coming to the carbon dioxide storage under this system, so this system can store up to 27.49 megagram of carbon per hectare and in its biomass only. So similarly in soil also it's storing 15 to 17 milligram of carbon up to 60 centimeter depth. So it's a huge carbon sink. So this system is a very huge carbon sink, so we are storing very high quantity of carbon in this system. So moreover, you are producing round the year fodder like 40 to 50 milligram per hectare per year, and is sustaining 4 to 5 ACU at a cattle unit per hectare per year. And moreover, it can store 31 to 100 megagram per hectare of carbon dioxide equivalent from the atmosphere. And we have also calculated the oxygen release capacity of this system. So they are able, because of different tree and grass combination, so the range is like 22 to 73 megagram per hectare of oxygen release capacity of this system. So we are also helping out to mitigate the pollution that's happening and to the reduce oxygen level. So it can also add increase the oxygen, so you can also increase the oxygen because of these system if you're planting them on the degraded land or any land. So, and this carbon dioxide equivalent or the carbon oxygen that is released, it's an important benefit of this system. And moreover, this carbon dioxide which is being stored by this system can be sold as a carbon credit. So you can fetch 8,000 to 28,000 NR per hectare per year out of this system, and this is the monetary gain. And moreover, as I told you that these were the degraded system, and we are producing good quality fodder for the livestock under this system, and round the year fodder, which means that it's going to sustain your livestock productivity. It's going to increase your livestock productivity, and moreover, you will get more of income out of your livestock by selling milk and or meat if you are having small ruminants like that. So moreover, we are also getting fuel wood and other products from this system, so that's also going to increase the livelihood of the farmers which are practicing the system. So this way we can have diversified source of income out of this system. And moreover, these are climate resilient because of huge carbon dioxide sequestration potential and oxygen release potential of this system. And moreover, we also studied that what is the status of the soil organic carbon, especially recalcitrant carbon. What is that that status? So we found that these silvipastoral system, they had 55 to 95% more of total organic carbon and recalcitrant carbon than the fallow land. We compared it with the land, fallow land, so it had more of recalcitrant carbon. This is most important for carbon sequestration, that's going to be there for the longer duration. So we found that, and they have been found to boost the microbial biomass carbon in the soil layer, like surface as well as surface, and different bacterial fungal population also increased. So these are the benefits of the agroforestry system, like silvipastoral system. So this is a totally research work that has been carried out uh, by our team. So yeah, on more important, eco restoration efficiency is also found to be higher in case of silvipastoral system than the other land use system. And we've also found that this system is providing is reducing the rise in the soil temperature because of the heat stress, and because of that, whatever soil organic carbon is there, it's going to be not impacted much by the high rise in the temperature. And these the soil organic carbon uh, hydrothermal sensitivity is very less compared to the land where fallow land is there. So it means that it's going to sustain this organic carbon store for the longer term. And in the face of future climate change, its temperature is going to be rise much more. But if you are having this system is going to have a stable soil organic carbon stocks that are not going to impacted by the increase in the temperature. And so it's very important, because of temperature rise, it's going to be no loss of the soil organic carbon. So especially labile carbon pools and some recalcitrant pools, they are going to be lost back in the atmosphere. So because of the trees, we can sustain them for the longer duration. So that's all the also an important impact of this agroforestry system. So you can see how we converted a degraded land into a beautiful landscape. So you can imagine a land where you were not producing anything, there was nothing, and then other way, by establishing this silvipastoral system, we made that land to produce fodder, like 30 to 50 megagram per hectare of fodder to sustain livestock. And moreover, we made this land to store more of the carbon dioxide. It was not storing anything, like, because there was no biomass. Or we made this land to sequester a huge amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. We also made this land to release a very huge amount of oxygen. And we also made this land to restore the soil nutrient and restore the soil fertility. So if you are going to have agroforestry system, you can make a wasteland into best land. You can improve your farming system by planting trees, properly managing them, properly establishing the agroforestry system by the virtue of managing the above and ground and below ground interaction. So you can see how you can change a landscape into more climate resilient landscape, plus more productive landscape, plus a landscape which can provide you diverse source of income, diverse source of income, and sustain livelihood of the local people. So it's very important to transform landscapes into more climate resilient landscape by integrating trees or by following agroforestry system. So a land which was not producing anything, not providing any benefit to the farmers, or which was not storing, or which was not contributing into a climate mitigation adaptation, we converted this land to this beautiful landscape. You can see a very beautiful landscape here. So by this way, we can transform our landscapes for climate resilience. So and moreover, these silvipastures or any agroforestry system, they also align with the sustainable development goals like zero hunger, no poverty. So agroforestry is also contributing to these sustainable development goals. All I want to say that agroforestry system, they are the ideal nature based solution for providing you food, fodder, and other diversified products, medicines, and other non-timber forest products, and to build ecological resilience, and moreover to conserve biodiversity. And they can tackle many issues like pollution by releasing the oxygen, and also by storing the huge amount of carbon dioxide in their biomass. So they can help in mitigating, adapting to the climate change, plus sustaining the livelihood of the local people. So it's very important to promote agroforestry, different type of agroforestry based on the ecological zones, and based on the soil type or the landscape. We can obviously promote agroforestry, and I think countries also focusing on that. Many missions are coming up, grow mission, and many missions are coming up to support establishment of agroforestry. So thank you very much. So this is all about today's presentation. So if you have
Thank you.
anything, ask.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Kamini, for your nice overview of various agroforestry system, throwing light on silvipastures, which you are